The motion is adopted.
Now on its way for President Biden to sign into law a bill titled the Respect for Marriage Act. It's praised by Catholic Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi, even though the bill rejects Catholic Church teaching on marriage.
A major victory for freedom, dignity, and equality for all.
The opposite view expressed a few miles from the U.S. Capitol at the Catholic University of America, where lawyer Ginny Bradley Lichter represents the historic school.
This university affirms the Catholic belief about marriage, which is that marriage is between one man and one woman.
That definition of marriage isn't anything new. Historically speaking, it's been the view of the Catholic Church for centuries and widely accepted within society at large. It's true that in the past 10 to 20 years in the U.S. and countries around the world, many laws about marriage have changed, providing rights to same-sex couples. But true definitions are hard to erase. Still, Catholic President Joe Biden will soon sign off on a new definition to enshrine in the U.S. Federal Code. He says the Respect for Marriage Act will help to ensure that Americans have the right to marry the person they love. To put it all in perspective, in 1996, Democratic President Bill Clinton signed the Defense of Marriage Act. It read in part, "The word marriage means only a legal union between one man and one woman as husband and wife." The Supreme Court would later deem this unconstitutional, but now the Defense of Marriage Act is officially repealed and a new definition added to the federal books, reading in part, "An individual shall be considered married if that individual's marriage is between two individuals." Democrats and a number of Republican supporters of the law believe it will also protect marriage rights for interracial couples and advance basic freedoms.
The freedom to love who you want to love, to marry who you want to marry.
Democratic Congressman Andy Levin told us it was important to pass a bill that would bolster the rights of same-sex couples. In its 2015 Obergefell versus Hodges decision, the Supreme Court legalized same-sex civil marriage across the country, ruling states cannot deny marriage licenses to gay couples. But this summer, after the conservative majority court ruled there is no explicit constitutional right to an abortion, Democrats feared the justices could roll back same-sex rights next. Pointing to conservative Justice Clarence Thomas, who said, "We should reconsider all of this court's substantive due process precedents, including Obergefell." With the Respect for Marriage Act in place, same-sex marriages would still be legally recognized even if the Supreme Court overturned its decision in Obergefell.
We put these rights in federal law so that there's no question about it, so that if the Supreme Court decides to take them away, we have them in federal statute.
The new law doesn't require houses of worship to host same-sex weddings, but concerns from the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops, as well as some members of Congress, include a lack of explicit religious liberty protections.
This legislation expressly empowers private litigants to sue religious institutions, faith-based organizations, and private parties who oppose, for sincerely held religious beliefs, same-sex marriage.
The USCCB says this bill fails to include clear, comprehensive, and affirmative conscience protections for religious organizations and individuals who uphold the sanctity of traditional marriage that are needed. And although Catholic institutions won't be required to facilitate same-sex wedding ceremonies, there could still be consequences, including for Catholic schools.
The university affirms the dignity of every person, regardless of their sexual orientation, but that's really not what this bill is about.
Ginny Bradley Lichter says the Catholic University of America could be vulnerable to litigation.
And there could be impacts on our ability, for example, to decide how to shape our workforce, how to handle benefits, how to handle student housing, or a number of other issues that touch on and grow from our religious identity.
Lichter told us she also worries about faith-based adoption agencies that strive to place needy children in homes with a traditional mother and father. We asked Congressman Levin if those adoption agencies should be required to violate their deeply held religious beliefs and place children with same-sex couples.
I mean, I think that if you're going to get in the business of doing adoptions, you have to follow the federal law.
At the end of the day, the change in a federal law or legal definition or public opinion about marriage won't change the truth about marriage, something the church has passed on throughout the centuries. Mark Irons, EWTN News in Depth.